Hello everyone, welcome back to Jikook Moments. Have you ever come across a post that looks completely ordinary, yet somehow feels different? A short Instagram story. No long caption. No explanation. Nothing that demands attention. And yet, that is often where the smallest details begin to speak the loudest. Some time ago, Jimin uploaded an Instagram story that, at first glance, looked like nothing more than routine. No dramatic framing. No deliberate message. No attempt to make it stand out. Just a quiet moment shared and passed along. But for those who are used to reading patterns, those who notice consistency rather than spectacle, something felt subtly off. Not wrong, just different. The camera angle, the texture of the light, the color balance, the visual character of the image. All of it carried a familiar signature, one that didn't fully align with what Jimin usually shows. And from that quiet mismatch, a question naturally began to form. Who was really behind that moment? This discussion was never meant to be about a phone. Not about brands. Not about operating systems. It's about closeness, so natural it doesn't need to be announced. Jimin has always been consistent in how he presents himself to the public. Subtle, controlled, predictable in the best sense of the word. He has long been associated with Samsung, and he has never made a point of changing that image. No statements, no clarifications, just routine. And yet, several of the photos he uploaded carried visual traits that many immediately recognized. The angles, the lighting softness, the camera behavior, even the way colors were processed. Everything pointed to one unmistakable conclusion. Those photos looked like they were taken with an iPhone. That's where curiosity quietly ignited. Not because Jimin couldn't afford one. Money was never the issue. Jimin could buy dozens without hesitation. What mattered was context. These photos weren't taken in one place or at one time. Different outfits, different moods, different settings. This wasn't a one-day coincidence. That's when people began connecting the dots. A theory surfaced, calmly, persistently, that those photos may have been taken using Jungkook's phone. And this wasn't born from fantasy. Jimin has always been comfortable with Android. It's part of his habits. So when a different visual trace appeared repeatedly, it carried weight. From here, only two possibilities exist. And interestingly, neither weakens the meaning. Either Jimin has complete freedom to use Jungkook's phone whenever he wants, without hesitation, without distance. Or Jungkook was physically present in those moments, close enough to be the one taking the photos himself. No matter which is true, the message remains unchanged. There are no boundaries between them. No awkwardness. No guarded distance. Only ease. Only trust. And that's where many people fall silent. A phone isn't a trivial object, especially for people who live under constant scrutiny. It holds private routines, conversations, schedules, emotions. For public figures, it is one of the last protected spaces. Sharing it casually says more than any interview ever could. To some, these details seem insignificant. To those who understand closeness, they speak volumes. When this theory first appeared, it was mocked, dismissed as excessive, labeled ridiculous. The same voices that insist Jungkook rejects Jimin were suddenly uncomfortable with how tangible this closeness looked. But reality doesn't need approval to exist. Narratives built on denial continue to crack under the weight of visible consistency. Jimin and Jungkook repeatedly show themselves as two people who are deeply comfortable with one another. Connected. Natural. What we see isn't exaggerated intimacy, it's habitual closeness. It would be strange if they didn't spend time together whenever possible. In Are You Sure? That pull toward each other appears again and again, not dramatic, but steady. A quiet dependency that feels human rather than performative. And once again, this was never really about a phone. It's about what that phone represents. Shared space, shared trust, shared routines. No matter how loudly some try to deny it, these small, unannounced gestures keep delivering the same message. What Jimin and Jungkook share goes far beyond what many are willing to acknowledge, and it shows precisely because it isn't forced. If we look at Are You Sure? With calm eyes, what stands out isn't drama, but consistency. Jungkook treats Jimin with an attentiveness that feels instinctive. He shows up. He notices. He adjusts without being asked. He doesn't just look after Jimin, he cares. Deeply. He reads his emotions, senses his comfort, and responds gently. The way he touches Jimin, holding hands, brushing fingers, leaning closer, is careful, respectful, and intentional, as if he knows exactly how precious the person in front of him is. Yes, Jungkook can be awkward with affection. Even Jimin has teased him about it. But there is no bitterness in that admission, only warmth. Because beneath that awkwardness is consistency. Jungkook is always careful, always present. He cooks for Jimin, cleans, feeds him, cuts his food so he can eat comfortably. Simple actions rich with meaning, not obligation, instinct. And perhaps this all makes sense when we remember where Jimin comes from. His family recently received the Family Green Noble Award, an honor rooted not in fame, but in sustained kindness and genuine care for others. It reflects values lived daily, not announced publicly. It reminds us that Jimin's gentleness isn't performative. It's inherited, learned at home, built through consistency. And that's why everything feels so real. Because when someone chooses to care, to share space, to remain present, even in the smallest details, that isn't coincidence. It's choice. And Jungkook chooses Jimin, again and again, quietly and without spectacle. Which brings us to a question that never seems to disappear. Why do people keep asking about Jungkook's so-called girlfriend? If someone has already decided Jikook isn't real, if every interaction is dismissed as staged, then the simplest option would be to ignore their content entirely. No one is forcing anyone to watch. And yet, they keep watching, keep analyzing, keep dissecting every glance, every pause, every touch. From something they claim doesn't exist. At this point, many no longer feel the need to explain why they believe. Not because they can't, but because they don't have to. This belief has never collapsed. Every moment only reinforces it. What we are seeing isn't coincidence. It's continuity. They always return to each other. Always reconnect. Always remain emotionally aligned. There is something far too human here to be fabricated. After, are you sure? 2. One truth feels even clearer. Emotionally, they don't exist apart. That intimacy doesn't need confession. That harmony doesn't need explanation. And that's why every time they appear together, noise follows. But when the noise fades, what remains is always the same. Jimin and Jungkook, standing side by side, choosing each other, sharing a space that clearly belongs only to them. In the end, none of this was ever about a phone. Not Samsung. Not iPhone. Not cameras. It's about what those details represent. Trust given without hesitation, distance that no longer exists, and routines shared so naturally they can't be manufactured. Jimin and Jungkook have never needed to explain what they have. Because what they show has always been consistent. And real. Thank you for watching Jikook Moments. See you in the next video.